This is not my favorite way of creating UTM parameters because while it is very fast and efficient, the problem is that most people in most cases are going to have multiple campaigns with multiple audiences, multiple ads. And so tracking all the UTM parameters that you have floating around inside of your ads manager becomes impossible when you're just creating them individually like this. What's up, everybody? Alvaro here from Alvaro Barrios Digital, and today is part 2 of my How to Run Facebook Ads in 2022 video series. That's a lot of twos right there. I don't think I can say that 10 times fast. But in the first video, if you do not watch it, I will link it down below for you in the description. I just give you an overview of the 3 crucial pillars that you need to focus on in order to succeed with Facebook ads in 2022. And today we're going to do a deep dive on that first pillar that I spoke about, which is you need to become data obsessed, because at the end of the day, we have incomplete data now inside of Facebook ads, and there's just no way around that. But in order to optimize properly and make the appropriate changes to your campaigns, you need to have complete information. You can't just go off of incomplete information. And so the best way to do that is good old Google Analytics. And like I mentioned in my last video, it's probably that tool that you installed on your website the very first time you created it, and you haven't logged back in ever since. But it's okay. I'm going to show you the bare minimum that you need to know with Google Analytics in order to start getting good insights from it. There's a lot you can do in there, but I'm going to give you the information you need in order to get started. Now, Google Analytics is a very powerful tool that can analyze lots of data for you. But out of the box, it's not the most useful tool, because when you just let Google Analytics collect data the way it wants to, you're going to get a lot of dirty data, is what I would call it. And that's because it interprets data the way it wants to. So when you get traffic from Facebook ads, for example, or just Facebook in general, in terms of the source of where the traffic is coming from, sometimes it will say things like facebook.com, or other times it'll say l.facebook.com or m.facebook.com. And ultimately, you're not going to know, what exactly is it talking about? Is it that an organic link? Is it from a paid ad? What exactly is it? Furthermore, especially when it comes to the naming conventions of your campaigns, if you don't tell it what campaign it's actually specifically coming from, sometimes it's going to actually display your campaign name correctly, whereas other times it's going to add some plus signs in between for spaces and all this kind of stuff. So you want to make everything as consistent and readable and analyzable, I don't think that's a word, but I just made it right now, analyzable as possible. And the best way to do that with Google Analytics is by inserting UTM parameters into all of your Facebook ad links. Now, if you don't know what a UTM parameter is, you've actually probably seen it before. It's basically just a string of text that you add on to the end of a URL, and it makes it very long and probably looks like a foreign language when you see it, but you'll see things like UTM source equals, UTM medium equals, so on and so forth. Now, these UTM parameters, and I will show you how to create these and apply them to your Facebook ads in just 1 minute, what they do is that they tell Google Analytics how you want the data to be displayed. That way, when you go inside, it's very clear which campaign is performing best, which audience is performing best, and which ad is performing best. That way, you don't need to leave anything up to chance. So now that you have a good overview of what UTM parameters are, let's go ahead and dive in on how to create them. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can create UTM parameters. There's the quick and dirty way, and then there's the slower but much more methodical and efficient way. And I'm going to show you why I feel that way about the 2 different forms. So the quick and dirty way is that you can simply just go to Google and you can type in UTM Builder right here. And then this very first tool, it's actually a Google DevTools link. You're going to click on that. And then this allows you to create a UTM parameter right here. So you can just type in your website URL. So I'm going to put in my top level domain. And then I'm going to give it a campaign source. In this case, it's going to be facebook.com, because that's where the traffic is coming from. The type of traffic, in this case, they refer to that as medium. I'm going to put it as CPC, which stands for cost per click, because this is paid traffic. So I'm paying for these people to make it to my website. Campaign name, I'm just going to say sample campaign. And then term, in this case, it would be the same thing as the audience that you're targeting. So I'll just say, for example, Tony Robbins as an interest that I'm targeting, and then campaign content. This is the specific ad that people will be clicking on. So I'll just say ad -1. So here it says the entire URL needs to be provided, so that's fine. Let's do https:/::. There we go. And now it spits it out. So here is my URL with all the UTM parameters. So this is that funky block of text I was referring to in the intro, right? So after the question mark, this is where the UTM parameters begin. So you see UTM source, facebook.com, UTM medium equals CPC, UTM campaign equals sample campaign, and so on and so forth. So then this is where you grab this and you apply it to your Facebook ads campaign. You do apply it somewhere very specific, and I will show you that in just one moment. But this is not my favorite way of creating UTM parameters, because while it is very fast and efficient, the problem is that most people in most cases are going to have multiple campaigns with multiple audiences, multiple ads. And so tracking all the UTM parameters that you have floating around inside of your ads manager becomes impossible when you're just creating them individually like this. And it becomes even more complicated if, let's say, you have a team and part of your team is in charge of your organic email efforts and they're creating UTMs for your email campaigns. Someone else is creating UTMs for your Facebook campaigns. Someone else is creating UTM parameters for your Pinterest posts or whatever it might be. So you have all these different UTMs floating around and everyone's using it. There's going to be no way for you to track what you actually have going out there. And it's going to be very hard for everyone to be very consistent in their naming conventions with UTM parameters. Because if, for example, someone says facebook.com and then someone else goes and creates facebook.com with a capital letter, even though it's from the same source, Google Analytics will then treat that as two different sources, right? So you need to make sure that everything is very consistent. So you will notice that everything here that I set up, it's all in lowercase. I have no capitals, and then for spaces, I use the dash. Because if you leave a space like that, while it will build the UTM parameter, again, you're going to give Google Analytics the ability to interpret that the way it wants to. So sometimes it will add a dash automatically. Sometimes it will add a plus sign. So who knows, right? You don't want to do that. You want to have as much control over how the data is displayed. So keep everything consistent, keep everything in lower cases, and make sure you only use dashes for your spaces. But like I said, this is not my favorite way. My preferred way is to do it all in a spreadsheet, just like this. So there's two tabs right here. There's your input spreadsheet and then your output spreadsheet. So in the input, here you're going to define the source, medium, and campaigns that you are going to be using. So for example, I have CPC, that's for anything that's paid traffic, organic, obviously anything that you do with your email list, for example, or you post organically in your social media, so on and so forth. And let's also say you have multiple teams running ads for you on different platforms. So let's say someone's doing Facebook ads for you and you have a different team doing Pinterest ads for you or whatever it might be. Then make sure that they also define, which agency is doing it. So here as an example, right, CPC-ABD, that's for my agency, Alvaro Barrios Digital. So someone can come in here and see, okay, I'm the one that created it and set that up. And then the other agency doing ads on a different platform, for example, CPC-XYZ. I just recommend doing that. That way, when you're in here, you can see who's creating what. And it's just a lot more clean for you when you're analyzing data inside of Google Analytics. And then you have your mediums. So that can be things like Facebook.com, email, YouTube.com, or organic, again, whatever it might be. So you can define that, but obviously keep in mind, as you can see here, everything's lowercase. Just always do lowercase. And then lastly, your campaign names. So here, for example, sample-campaign-1, sample-campaign-2. So then when you come to your outputs right here, when I click on these drop downs, then I have everything that I need from that campaign. So I can go ahead and build my UTM parameter the way I want it to be built. So I have my top level domain here. So let's just say, in this example, CPC, medium is going to be facebook.com, sample campaign 1 is going to be the campaign. And then here I do have to manually input two things. One is term, which is going to be the same thing as audience. And the other one is content, which is the specific ad that the person clicks on. So for audience, let's go ahead, for purposes of this example, do Tony-Robbins. And then add, it can be add-1. Now, add-1 isn't very descriptive, so I actually would recommend making that much more descriptive in terms of what it is that you're saying in the ad, maybe the hook of the ad, and also if it's like a video or image. So this probably would be better if it was add-1-image1, something like that. So just make sure that whenever you look at it, though, you know which ad it's actually specifically referring to. Then I've got this other one here. I'm going to go CPC again, facebook.com, sample campaign 2 this time. This time I'll do entrepreneur Oops, I misspelled that. Ship. And then here I can do like add -to -video 1. And as you can see here, as these are being built, it automatically spits out the UTM parameters for me. It's got this formula up in the top level bar. You don't need to really know anything about this formula because it's automatically done for you, but you just need to know that it'll create the UTMs for you. So if you're interested in grabbing this spreadsheet, I will have a link for it below. That way you can utilize it for you and your team as well. So once you have the UTM created, now you need to apply the UTM to your actual Facebook campaign. So let me show you where to do this. So you're going to copy the UTM parameter here, and then you're going to go to the ad level inside of Facebook ads, and then you're going to scroll all the way down. You're not going to put it in here where the website URL is there. So you're still going to make that the same as always. There's no changes or differences there. You want to go all the way to the bottom to this section where it says URL parameters, and then you're going to paste it in there. But I'm going to delete everything that comes before the question mark and the question mark included, because I don't need that in there. All I need is the UTM. So where it starts saying UTM source, UTM medium, all that kind of stuff. And the reason you want to put it in here and not up here inside of your regular URL field is simply because if you put it up here, it's only going to apply to the people who click on, for example, in this case, the learn more button. But if you have links inside of your body copy, which I always do recommend that you do have, it's not going to apply the UTMs to those body copy links. But if you have it down here in this field, it's going to apply it to all the links inside of your body copy automatically without you even having to come up here and add them yourself, right? It's just an automated process, which is very cool, very neat. So you just add it once and it's going to apply it to this URL right here when people click on learn more, and then it's going to apply to any links that you have inside of your body copy. So that's why you want to be putting it down there. The other question that you might have is that Facebook does have its own URL builder right here, which you can click on. And then, as you can see here, it already kind of pre-populated the information that I have. You can use this. But the reason I don't recommend this is because if I get rid of this right here, for example, you might be tempted to use what are known as the wildcards, such as you can see right here, add.id, where you're actually just putting in this part right here. Let's just put that right there for add ID. And so it's just going to take the name that you've applied to your ad in this case and put that into Google Analytics. The reason I don't recommend using that though, while it's very fast and convenient, is because unless your naming conventions across all your campaigns, all your ad sets and all your ads are very, very consistent, again, you're going to run into the issue where Google Analytics is going to interpret the data it wants to, and it's going to apply different naming conventions to different things. So that's why I don't like doing it this way. I like to have as much control as possible in terms of how the data looks like inside of Google Analytics, and the best way for me to ensure that is by using a spreadsheet just like this. So now that we have this set up and we have it applied to our Facebook campaigns, now we need to go inside of Google Analytics and create a conversion event and then analyze data. We're going to start doing that in GA3. Okay, cool. So now that you know how to create UTM parameters, now it's time to dive inside of Google Analytics. That way we can first and foremost create conversion events, and then second, analyze the data. So Google Analytics is not going to know your conversion events right off the bat. You have to tell it what it is that you want to be tracking. So I'm going to show you how to do that in both GA3 and GA4. Now, GA3 is the version of Google Analytics that most of you are probably on at this moment, but GA4 was introduced last year, and it's going to be the new norm moving forward. So I certainly encourage you to set up your GA4 account. You can have GA3 and GA4 installed on your website at the same time. It's not going to ruin everything, and as a matter of fact, I suggest that you do it that way because there are certain features that aren't exactly available yet in GA4 that are necessary to analyze your data. With GA4, they're doing a little bit more of a slow rollout in terms of the features, but eventually it will be the new mandatory versions. So let's go ahead and dive into GA3 to see how to track conversions and analyze your data. All right, so here we are inside of the Ga4 interface. So in all likelihood, this is the version of Google Analytics that you have installed on your website, assuming it's something that you did when you first created your website many years ago. If you don't have any version of Google Analytics installed on your website, then you definitely want to start with Ga4. I will show you that in just a minute how to do that. But first, let's start inside of Ga3. So before we can start analyzing and interpreting the data coming from Facebook ads inside of Google Analytics, we first have to define the conversion event, because Google Analytics on its own is not going to know what it wants us to specifically track. So we have to create that conversion event inside of Ga3. Inside of Ga3 though, they call it goals, not conversions. So just keep that in mind. So here is the home interface of Ga3. So you're going to log in, and then you're going to head down to the bottom left right here where it says admin. And then in this third column over here, you're going to click on goals, and then you're going to click on create new goal, custom, continue. You're going to give it a name. So I'll just call this webinar opt-in as an example. Obviously define it what it actually is. If it's a lead magnet, say that. If it's some kind of purchase, obviously say that. Then you're going to choose, at least in this case, a destination goal. Continue. And then here you have to define the destination. So you have three options here. You can do equals to, begins with, or regular expression. Personally, I recommend doing regular expression, and that you just do like something like thank-you. Now, if you have 30 different lead magnets or sales pages or whatever it might be with thank-you, and they all have some sort of different ending like 1, 2, 3, then this wouldn't be a very good setup, because it would count all of those as the same conversion inside of GA. So if you want to track specific ones for different purchases or different opt-ins, then I would do the equals to option. But when you do equals to, you want the entire URL. So the HTTPS, www, and then whatever it is, right? So you want to do the whole domain there. But if you only have one page that has the specific string of text / thank-you, then you can just use regular expression and then put it in that way. There we go. And then if there is some sort of value, let's just assume that this is a purchase. You can do that right here, and you just enter the value. But I'm just going to pretend that this is a free opt-in, and then you can click on save. So there you have it. Now you have the conversion event defined inside of Google Analytics. So now let's take a look at how the conversion data is going to show up inside of Google Analytics using the UTM data that we created in the previous step. All right, so here we are inside of a Ga3 account that has actual data in it. I was just using sample URLs in the previous example, but I want to show you how to analyze your conversion data inside of Ga3 once the conversion event is created, and also once you've applied UTM parameters to all of your Facebook ads. So the way you're going to do that is that you're going to head over to conversions right here. Then you're going to click on goals, overview. And then by default, it's going to give you the data of all the different conversion events you have created inside of your Ga3 accounts. And you can see right here where it says all goals. So if you want to look at it this way, that's totally fine. But if you want to look at a very specific goal that you've created, obviously go ahead and select the one that you want to be looking at. And then you're only going to see the data for that specific conversion event. So here it's going to give you the goal completion location, which is just the URL of the thank you page. But then what you want to do to start drilling down a little bit more is go ahead and click on source medium right here. And so right off the bat, we can see here that there's 755 conversions, but we can see here that 504 of those have come from Facebook ads. And we know that they're Facebook ads because of the source medium of CPC Facebook. So let me actually go back one step. Did not mean to shoot me back. There we go. So you see CPC-Facebook 504, direct/none. So that's actually probably organic traffic going directly to the opt-in page, or it could be from emails as well, Google organic. And so you can see here some of the examples of when you give Google Analytics the freedom to interpret data on its own, right? So it's got L.Facebook, LM.Facebook, M.Facebook. Who knows like what the difference is between all of those? In all likelihood, there's some sort of organic click, but right, we don't know. That's why UTMs are awesome, and you can actually apply them to anything, right? Your organic posts, your email links, whatever it might be. But here we've set them up inside of our Facebook ads, so we know that all of these right here are from Facebook ads. So let's drill down a little bit further, because we want to know which audiences and which ads specifically are the ones that are driving the results. So here we go, CPC, Facebook. Again, we see the full data analysis right here of our conversion rate, pages per session, the bounce rate, so on and so forth. Just make sure that, again, you have the specific goal event selected right here. Sometimes it will go back to all goals, so just make sure you're looking at the correct one right here. And now if you want to look at the audience, for example, that is driving the results, go ahead in here where it says secondary dimension, go ahead and type in keyword, select that. And then here are all the audiences inside of Facebook ads that are driving the results. And we can sort them here by the amount of conversions that they're driving in. So all of these are coming from UTM parameters. If it wasn't for the UTM parameters, none of this data would be showing up inside of Google Analytics. But we can see it very clearly here in terms of the best performing audiences. And then if we want to see it in terms of the best performing ads, we go here, type in content, add content. And then these are the names of the ads that we have inside of Google Analytics. So what if we want to see it from a slightly different angle? Because so far we've been seeing it from the source medium and either audience or ad, but we can switch this up right here. So for example, right here, we can make this the keyword or audience view. So now this primary column is the audiences that we were seeing just a second ago. And now we can go in here and type in content. So now we're looking at it from the view of the best performing audiences and then the best performing ads within those given audiences right here. So very, very great way to read and interpret your data. You can modify the number of rows down here in the bottom right to just expand it out a little bit more. That way you're seeing everything else. So this is the great thing about Google Analytics, is that once you have those very clean UTM parameters set up on your Facebook ads, the data inside of GA itself will also be very clean, and you'll be able to make smart decisions, because here I can assure you inside of Facebook for this client account, it's not showing 504 conversions. It's probably showing a little bit more than half in that because of the iOS 14.5 changes. But now I can look at the data in here and make smart optimization decisions. All right, so that's how you do it in GA3. It is different how you do it in GA4 though. So now let's go ahead and dive into that platform. Hey, and before I move on, if you're enjoying this video on how to utilize Google Analytics in conjunction with your Facebook ads, do me a huge favor and go ahead and click that like button. It lets me know if you enjoy this type of content. That way I can go ahead and create more of it for you in the future. All right, so here we are inside of the Ga4 interface. So this is something that you want to install on your website ASAP, because as I mentioned previously, it will be the new permanent norm moving forward in the not so distant future, and they will phase out GA3, and it's okay to have it installed alongside your GA3. They're not going to impact each other in any way, shape, or form, and it is good to do it that way anyway, simply because A, it allows you to get your feet wet with Ga4, because it does have a drastically different interface, and also there are certain data points that are not available yet inside of Ga4 that are available in Ga3. They're doing a little bit of a slow phase in for Ga4 data, so by having them both installed, you'll be taken care of. So in order to create a conversion event inside of Ga4, we first have to define the event and then specify that that event is specifically a conversion that we want to be tracking. So in order to get started, go ahead and navigate to the left-hand menu right here, click on configure, and it's going to default to the event section. So these are automated events that the account creates for you, but we want to create a custom event. So in order to do that, go ahead and click on create event, and then create once again, and then give it a name. So in this case, we'll do generate lead, and then event name equals to, and then we're going to do page underscore view. So we're just simply saying that this is a destination type of event, that once they reach this page as a page view, then the event needs to trigger. But then also we need to add certain conditions there so it knows which page to trigger this on. So then go ahead and click on add condition, and we're going to do page location contains, and then thank -u. So this part in my mind is a little bit easier because if you recall from GA3, we had to either choose things like equals to or begins with or a regular expression, but here you just choose page location contains and then put in the thank-u or whatever is inside of the URL for your thank you page. Now, if this is some kind of purchase, you can add a modification here by clicking right here and then putting in some purchase values right here. So an example of that would just be value, let's just say $50, and then right here it would be currency, there we go, and then we're going to do USD. But we're not going to do that here in this case because we're just doing a lead generation. I did just want to show you that though in case this is a purchase that you're doing. But if everything here is the way you want it, go ahead and click create. Okay, cool. So now you can see that we've created the event. It pops up right here. Now, one thing to note though, inside of GA4, the newly created event will not show up inside of your dashboard immediately. It actually takes about 12 to 24 hours for the event to appear. So don't worry, just create the event and then check back the next day to make sure that it is appearing. But we're not done yet because now we need to define or tell Google Analytics that that specific event is a conversion. So go to conversions right here in the left-hand navigation. Click on new conversion event. Now you want to type in the same exact name we just gave that event name. If you do anything that's even remotely different, it's going to assume you're talking about something else. So make sure that the conversion event name here is 100% the same. So generate underscore lead is what the name that we gave it. Click save. And then once that event actually starts appearing and firing, then that conversion value will actually show up right here. So that's how you create it. Now let's take a look at an example of an account where there's already plenty of conversion events firing, so I can show you how to analyze the data inside of GA4. All right, so here we are inside of an account that is already running and has plenty of conversion and event data for us to take a look at. And again, the way you actually analyze this is different from the way you do it inside of GA3. So just to look at your overall conversions and stuff like that, you're gonna head on over to engagement right here, and then you're gonna click on conversions. And so then you can see right here, this is the one that was created for this account challenge sign up. It says total users, the amount of that have taken place over time. If I want to drill down a little bit more, I can click on this right here and it's defaulting to source. So CPC, that's all the paid traffic that's coming through. I can click right here, go to medium, and then it's going to show me, you know, whether it's facebook.com or some sort of organic source or anything like that. But here at this point, this is a little bit of a limited view in terms of analyzing your conversion data. If you want a more full view, then what you want to do is head on over to acquisition and then traffic acquisition. And then you can see the data right here. Now, just like GA3, it's actually going to default to all conversion events over here in this column. So if you only want to see a specific conversion event, go ahead and click on the drop down, choose the one that you want to be looking at. And then you're going to be seeing clean data right there for the specific conversion event that you want to be analyzing. And just like in the previous one, you can click on this drop-down menu and change it. And we can also modify it with a secondary column. So if we only want this first one to be source, and you can change it to campaign as well. Now, one thing that you'll notice, right, we're looking at source, medium, and campaign, but it's not giving us the option for looking at either the audience or the keyword, so to speak, or the ad itself. So that is something that, at least from what I've seen so far in GA4, is missing. I certainly do hope that they add it at some point in the not so distant future. There is a way to look at some of that data though. You go to events. Here we go. And then you click on the event that you want to be analyzing a little bit more. Here we see some slightly different data that you can look at. So here's the paid ad content. So this is the ad that is driving the results. So we can look at it right here. So those are the naming conventions that we gave these ads. The thing that's still missing, as far as I can see though, is the keyword or the audience in this case, to see which audiences are the ones that are driving results. So there's source, medium, campaign, paid ad content. I don't know exactly where to see the audience data just yet, which is why you want to have GA3 and GA4 set up simultaneously. But like I said, you still want to do this inside of GA4 to get used to it, and then also just to be ready once GA4 becomes the permanent norm. So now we know how to do it both in GA3 and GA4, and it's pivotal to do this for success in 2022. You're going to have incomplete data inside of Facebook Ads Manager because of the iOS 14.5 update, but you still can make informed decisions on your data